Hello, hello, everyone. Thank you again for tuning in to a Wake Up and Dream podcast. I'm Kelly here with Lisa and Sarah, and we're just excited to come together and talk about taking risks. We kind of just sort of dabbled a little bit in the last episode when we were talking about retirement, but living now versus waiting for retirement. And we kind of mentioned a little bit about taking those risks, doing a little bit of something that you love now, figuring out how to put it into your daily life, whether it's, a new career or just a new hobby, something that excites you, but taking those risks sometimes are just important. It changes you. You just develop and grow in ways that you probably would have never expected to do it. And all three of us we kind of came together a little bit and talked about a little risks that we have taken here, there, big risks, small risks, whether it was a financial risk, whether it was a up and move like we did from Colorado to Kentucky to an unknown area of the country. Like why are we doing this? Where are we going? How long are we going to be there? Like what challenges are we going to find when we get there, or how beautiful will it be when we get there? But sometimes we just feel like we're stuck and nothing's going to change, but it's not going to change if nothing changes, right? Like you want to be able to, we keep saying this all the time, like joy, you have to find joy in your life. And it's not always going to be perfect, right? Gals, we're going to have the ups and the downs and the cry and the lows of the lows. But when we have that something that wakes us up in the morning, even if it's your 30-minute yoga routine in the morning, that then gets you fired up and ready, and you are just in flow and you are ready for your 9 to 5 job, right? Or to take on your kiddos for the day, like whatever that is. But also taking a little risk, right, girls? Like
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I feel like people. Oh, go ahead, Lisa.
Well, I'm just curious where you guys are on the scale of being a risk taker. Like, I want to know, like, your gut. Are you like,
That's good.
I'm gonna step off and try something totally like crazy. I don't know if it's gonna work. Or are you over here on the I'm playing it safe. This is where I like to reside, and don't push me over to the risk. Like,
Okay.
where are you?
This is a great question. And if you asked me like before, like in college, it would be very different. I feel like, getting married, I can't even just, say that it's because of my kids. It's even like I feel like my relationship with my husband changed some of the risks that I was willing to take as well, because I valued our relationship and the time spent together. So I think this question back in college, like I, traveled Europe, I studied abroad, I slept in train stations if things didn't work out. If I couldn't find a hotel, I would figure it out. And it was only me. So I wasn't as worried. And I felt like I can do things that are a little bit scary because it's just me. Now, fast forward 20 years, which is crazy, but fast forward 20 years and it's different because now I take fewer risks because of the impact that could have on my family and friends. I still think I take more risks than the average person, but I just think it looks a little bit different because I'm always weighing out the other side. Like if this doesn't work, what's the impact to my kids? And I feel like I can't always get that out of my head. Like I can't just like do something and jeopardize the life that's already been created for them, which might be kind of, not the best thought process. It might be something that like, I should still take risks to show my kids that it's okay to take risks like that. But I do think that I tread a little bit more, I'm more cautious these days.
I kind of agree, Sarah. I am the one that has to process it first. I don't mind taking the risk, but you bet yourself that I am going to do a pro and cons list of all the things that could happen, that won't happen, that will happen, the good, the bad, all the things. And then I'll go all in. I have to have it all figured out, which is so backwards. And I'm trying to work through that a little bit after, doing all the lessons that we've done through Bob Proctor and our paradigms and what traps us and stops us and knowing our Enneagram. But I also married a Enneagram 7, which he is a dreamer and a jumper, and we'll figure it out when we get there. A risk taker. He doesn't care. He's like, it'll be fine. We'll figure it out. This is next. Well, I'm going to do this now. And so I kind of am along for the ride in a way, but I've learned to like also be a part of it, but he takes me out of my comfort zone, which
it's a good balance.
I appreciate, and other times I really have to find my peace with it, but he does challenge
the pros
me
and the
quite a bit.
So actually, it's interesting, Kelly. I'm going to blow your mind right now because I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the person being interviewed on this podcast wrote this book called Burn the Boat, or Burn the Boats, or Burning the Boat. I have to look it up.
I haven't heard of that one.
Basically, it's about tossing plan Bs out the window and saying that you need to focus, like people that are doing these pros and cons lists. Actually, when you have a plan B, you put more focus on like, well, if this doesn't work out, then this. If you're not putting your full focus on what you want to work out, you're always going to resort back to this comfortable plan B. So he's like, get rid of the plan B, focus on the plan A,
burn that
happen. Burn the boat. You don't have to stay in the boat while you burn it. You get out of the boat,
right?
Then you burn the boat. But if you don't have that backup plan, it actually helps you get to your plan A way faster, better, and you're committed to that plan A because your boat's gone.
Yes, I can totally see that, like for sure.
And I don't think like that right now, but like it made me think. I'm like, oh man, I totally am in this space in my life right now where I try to keep that boat a little bit close just in case if I need it. And we'll take certain risks within me, like within our comfort level. But I still think that I always have that boat right near me just in case. And it's like, what if I kick that boat away? What would my plan A look like and where would I be headed? It's pretty crazy. I have to find out the name of that book so we can maybe talk about it in more detail once I read it.
Yeah. Definitely. I think about you, Sarah, in last year, you taking some pretty big risks in your life. You switched jobs. Like you knew that you wanted something different. And I mean, don't you think so many just stay because they're afraid to risk the unknown? Because you didn't know what this new job, if you'd really like it. It's quite different, smaller, all the things. So like, I think that keeps people like stuck even in you weren't necessarily unhappy, but you wanted something different, like we just get stuck in that thinking, well, I don't know exactly what this is going to be, so I know this, and
people rationalize a lot. I feel like that's
all
like
the time.
To sum that up, it's like you're rationalizing, I'm not unhappy, so do I really need to take this risk and make a change because I'm not unhappy? And that rationalization just keeps you where you are. Where you know what, you might not be unhappy, but you could be way happier and way like just in such a better spot if you did take that risk. And the margin of you being like of something going wrong or whatever, like it's pretty small, but our rationalization just keeps us where we are because it's just less risky.
So did you guys grow up with parents that were risk takers? Did you see it modeled?
I wouldn't say I did necessarily. No, They had their jobs. My dad was an accountant and my mom stayed home with us through pretty much grade school, middle school. And then she went to work for the school district and that's what they did to provide for us, And so, I mean, but what really qualifies, I guess, as a risk? Is it just changing jobs? Is it,
it can
buying a new car or starting a side job or, taking a risk to be a stay-at-home mom is a risk.
Huge risk.
Oh, yeah.
Financially, emotionally, like for some women becomes, a risk that you had to, decide to take.
I know for us, like I think back to we had a almost 3-year-old, and then we conceived twins, and we had purchased literally 3 years when our first was born, we purchased a 2-income home because I loved my job. My husband at the time loved his job, and voila. And then we conceived twins, and it was like, oh my gosh, like 3 kids under 3, and I'm gonna go to a job. Like, I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but feasibly in our 2-income home, that could not happen. And so we had to take the risk. We sold the house. We built our own little house on a little lot, and took that risk because we knew what we wanted and what was important and the priority in that chapter. But I think sometimes, the opposite, we could have said, well,
that's like really scary, Lisa.
I'm
just saying, like, that's like a huge,
right?
like, you uprooted your family and trusted that this was what you needed to do. That's like a huge risk. I'm learning so much about you gals as we as we go through this podcast. That is.
We went from a 2-income to a 1-income home.
Yeah.
And I mean, we had to alter our budget. We had to, we didn't do extras. We didn't go out to eat. We didn't, because we valued me being home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guess for me too, thinking back in my childhood a little bit more, like, I do remember even when we were in middle school, like, my dad had the opportunity to transfer from the small town we were living in to the big city of Denver for, job opportunity. And that was going to be a big risk. So it was like, even though you as a child may not see what your parents are stressing over and deciding for you and the family, like, they ultimately decided no, that they didn't want to bring and raise 2 girls in the city, that my dad was going to then say no to this promotion and stay where they were. So, and as I'm thinking, I'm like, I think they did a whole lot more than, I think because they just provided this amazing life for my sister and I, that we didn't see the bumps and the bruises and not the physical, I'm just saying, like, the valleys and the things that they had to endure financially that, I probably never knew. And I know some dreams that my mom probably wanted to do, but she, wanted a family more, but she loved every single minute of it. And I think that's what's important, and not letting anybody tell you different or that you're dreaming too big or you don't dream at all, but just making sure. I think I'm going to piggyback on what you said earlier, Sarah. I've seen a quote too, like, are you happy or just comfortable?
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a big question to ask. That's a journal prompt right there.
Yes. And I feel like I've sat in that seat many times. Confession, like, truly, like, I didn't want to risk anything. I was doing what I wanted to do, but was I happy? Like, is this really what you want? Or is there something worth the risk? And again, to our listeners, it doesn't have to be a financial risk, right? Like, it could be trying something new. Like, all 3 of us have tried and been in different phases of network marketing. Like, there's a small fee that you start your business with, but, like, just try it. Who knows where
what's the worst that could happen, really?
Right.
I mean, you gain a few products, right? You meet a few friends, like, that's
so
awesome.
true. But I remember, I mean, you guys probably can relate. Like, I was deep in the trenches of homeschooling, and we were living pretty tight, paycheck to paycheck. So when I was asked to get another job or a part-time job, I thought, well, maybe I can do direct sales because I can set my own hours and do the parties when it works for my schedule, as opposed to having a boss tell me when I have to show up. But I was so scared, like so scared, because I had never sold anything. I didn't want to be the pushy salesman. I had all of the things going on in this little tiny yes of buying a starter kit, like, it's just, but I look back 12 years and I'm like, holy buckets, that was the best decision I could have ever made, because it has given my family and I so much, way more than income. It's given us that community of like, my best friends are literally in my direct sales company, and the opportunity to travel and the opportunity, but more than that, it's like the growth, the
growth is
empowerment,
so
the
key with any
growth.
risk.
Yes. I mean, and do we want to stay comfortable and just like, stagnant, or that risk allows us to stretch and really see what's inside, what is our true potential. That's where I want to live. I know for me.
Yes, because I think our intuition too, or our gut feeling, or our heart actually like does a little tug, like, hello, excuse me.
Yep.
I'm in here. And when you have that tug on your heart to try something, to do something, to sign up for something, to invest in something, to start knitting again and selling blankets at the craft show, like, who cares? Just try something that sets your heart on fire for your life instead of just living by default. I think we refer to that quite a lot too, do something.
And don't you think that sometimes we think if we say yes, it's like a forever sentence.
Forever, right? You can always quit or go back or start something else. Yes, nothing's forever.
Regardless if it's trying a new hobby, trying a new job, trying direct sales, trying a place to live, like all of these things, they're not forever. And I think we buy into, oh my gosh, this is like this huge risk, this big decision that I'm making, because
this huge commitment.
Because in our minds we bought into, I'm locked in forever. And that's not true.
I think
because that's what we were trained in college too. Like, you go to college, you get your degree, you go get your job, and you're going to be there till retirement.
Yeah.
That is not the case. I think, gosh, I don't even know, 10 years ago, they were saying, they did some poll or something, that the average American will work 7 different jobs in their lifetime. And not just me. That's when I was an interior designer. It wasn't that I was going to work for 7 different studios or companies. It was literally like, I was an interior designer. I have been a dental assistant. I have worked in network marketing business. I'm now a certified life coach. Like, I'm already, like, I was a tennis instructor. I was a volleyball coach. So I'm on 6 and I'm only 42. So that's
what do you want to be when you grow up, Kelly?
I have no idea.
Me either.
But that's the fun of it, isn't it?
That's
the fun of it. We don't have to know, and nothing needs to be this life sentence that we're gonna, commit to, as far as like what we really want. I love that.
I think a really good question to ask when you're coming to a space where you're like, do I take this risk or do I not, is what's the worst thing that could happen? Like, if all of the scenarios, so say you are like, Kelly, doing the pros and the cons, if all of the worst things were to happen, then what? Chances are it's really not that big of a deal. There's a way to come back from that. But if you don't take the risk and actually try out whatever it is that's tugging on your heart, then you're not like, then what? Have this, like, you have this thing out there that you're like, I really want to try this, but I'm scared to do it. Like, that's going to be there forever, versus trying 95% of the things that you're worried about aren't going to happen anyway. But
and that's the point I want to make, Sarah, because I think having your brain imagine what the worst thing and realizing it's probably not even that bad, right? But then it's the flipping the coin over and saying, so what's the best thing that could happen if I took this risk? Like, and start envisioning that. And you're
and
going to be like,
focusing on that part.
oh my gosh, that's going to like, it's going to be such a cool visualization exercise for our listeners to be able to, even, visualize, like picture yourself at that job or doing the thing or, signing up for whatever it is that you're
salsa dancing classes.
That's right.
Ooh.
Cha-cha-cha.
Right.
And
what's
then,
the worst thing? You can
what's
trip
the
on your
worst?
heels and
and make a friend that picks you up off the floor.
right.
But picture the best things that could happen, because I think we're programmed to go to that worst and then we get stuck. So literally allowing our brain to go, what if it did work out? What if it was everything that I envision it to be? What would that look like? That excites me, because I really think that is where life like literally infuses our bodies and our minds and our hearts when we start imagining without limits, what if the best, what would happen if the best things all fell into place for me?
I feel like I need to process this conversation. Like, I'm actually excited to edit this episode because I feel like I'm going to be re-listening to all of this and just taking it in, taking risks. Like, you'll never know what good can come from taking that risk until you actually just do it. There's so many good things that could come from that. But the first step you got to take is to actually do it. And, Lisa, in the previous episode where we talked a little bit about what your parents created, and that was a huge risk. And the example that them taking that risk set for you and your siblings is huge as well. So like, I'm thinking about that too, from my perspective. Am I playing it a little bit more safe because of my kids? Maybe I should actually take more risks because of my kids.
Oh, I love that.
So like, what example are you setting for your kids
it.
and making these decisions too? And on that pros and cons list that I still don't think I'm ready to give up, but maybe after reading this book, I will.
Why even make a pros and cons list? Just make a pros.
Yeah. I know. And then if you're like nervous about taking,
burn the boat.
I was going to say, burn the boat, write the cons and then burn that list.
That's right. Love it.
There we go.
Being comfortable, when I was comfortable in my job and this and that, like being comfortable, it's fine. But Lisa, I think you said that risk allows us to grow to our true potential. Like that is the key, is taking these risks. So huge. So think about it. I feel like, you have a lot to think about following this episode. Maybe start thinking about what is one risk that you'll want to take, right? All the great things that could come out of that risk. And we'll continue this conversation also in our Facebook group. So be sure to check it out there. And, we hope to connect with each of you soon. Reach out on Instagram, on our Facebook group, and our YouTube channel too, if you want to see our lovely faces while we're chatting. So all of that can be found in the show notes. And until next time, wake up and dream.